الله الرحمن الرحيم وبه نستعين إنه خير ناصر ومعين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم لا سيما بقية الله في الأرضين واللعن على أعدائهم أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. Today is the last session, so I'm sure you are very happy to see my face for the last time. You must be tired. That is why probably you are now sitting further away. So no problem. So today is the lecture number 5, class number 5, last in the series on Tadabbur. In fact, there are many topics within Tadabbur that we could go on with, but I think that most of it has been covered. Just again, I dedicate this lecture to Bibi Fatima Zahra, whose wiladat it was today. I congratulate all of you today on this auspicious occasion. We ask Allah through her to give us the tawfiq to understand the verses of the Quran and to implement them in our lives. So the hadith I have from here, from Bibi Fatima Zahra on this slide, she says, "Man as'ada ila Allahi khalisa ibadati, ahbata Allahu ilayhi afdala maslihati." Meaning being, whoever makes the intention of his ibadat pure for the sake of Allah, then Allah will send down to him his most excellent blessings. You can see that that thing which we are actually doing is actually the ibadat. That means, for example, we pray and we fast and we give sadaqah. It is the action. But the action is not that which goes up towards Allah. It is the ikhlas, and that is the purity of intention that goes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it is that thing which needs to be purified, that intention that we have, that I'm doing this action for Allah and I need to purify it. That means I don't associate this action, this niyat with anybody else. And that thing which we can expect therefore from Allah is abundant blessings, both materially and spiritual blessings can be expected. Best of the Muslim, the best of the blessings can be expected. This is Hazrat Zahra who is telling us about it. Tadabbur by Imam Raza. This is a slide which I have brought from Module 1. Some of you were not present, so just look at that. Imam Raza, he says that I would have read the Quran, I was reading the Quran, I would read the Quran every morning and evening, right? And then he would say that if I want, I can finish the Quran in 3 days. But Tadabbur I do, so that is why I can't finish it within 3 days. So here there's a very important point for us, that you want to do Tadabbur, you must get close to the Quran. And one of the aspects that we discussed in Module 1 was to read the Quran regularly. So Imam Raza is teaching us that I read the Quran twice a day, morning and evening. Right? So we should at least do it once a day, continuously, even if it is a few number of ayats. And then of course, to do Tadabbur on these verses. And then he says that furthermore, at the time of tilawat, again this word tilawat is something that we discussed in Module 1. Tilawat, qira'at, tartil, all these words we discussed. Tilawat here doesn't mean just reading. It means reading, pondering, and acting on that, right? So at the time of tilawat, Imam says, every time he would reach a verse talking about heaven or hell, right, he would start crying. Right? Now why would he start crying? So we discussed last time that when we read the ayah, right, what we are supposed to do is to take ourselves as the audience. That means the Quran is now talking to us. So when we come across an ayah which is talking about heaven or hell, right, we should put ourselves into that position, that as if heaven is in front of us or hell is in front of us. When we do that, because we feel the presence, we feel like crying either in joy because we are so close to heaven, or crying because we are so close to hell, right? And therefore, Imam would, if it was a verse relating to heaven, then he would ask for heaven. So this is the result of going through the verse of the Quran which is talking about heaven. So he would put it into action, which means that he would ask Allah that, oh Allah, give me Jannah. Or he would come across a verse with regard to hell, then he would ask Allah to protect him from hell. This is something that we must do when we come across these type of verses. We must put ourselves first of all into that scene, right? Feel it ourselves, and then ask Allah for that blessing or for protection from punishment. So the Arabic is that فَإِذَا مَرَّ بِآيَةٍ فِيهَا ذِكْرُ جَنَّةٍ أَوْ نَارٍ بَكَى. Come across an ayat which is the Jannah is mentioned or hellfire, you would cry. وَسَأَلَ اللَّهُ جَنَّةً وَتَعَوَّذَ بِهِ مِنَ النَّارِ. Seek protection from the fire. Right. Another slide which I bring you from the one I thought it was necessary, because there are certain points here which we need to show and go through. One of them is that the importance of getting close to the Quran. Right, so I have a quote here from Mahmood, and he says that if we become intimate with the Quran, close to the Quran, then the thinkers in our society, those people who are doing good, able to do tadabbur properly, they will be able to understand many things from the Quran that will be able to answer thousands of life's questions, right? Such as manners, relationships, taking stances against different people, for example, enmity, how to act with enemies, how to have friends, how to interact with the wealth around us, how to interact with the world around us. There are so many questions that can be answered by the Quran. We have seen when we did Tadabbur, we came up with so many answers ourselves. So a person who is good at it can even achieve even more. And he says that this is what is necessary for us. So many of society's problems, life's problems, can be achieved through Tadabbur. On the other hand, we have people right now who are not doing Tadabbur on the Quran. Therefore, he says that the world today is wretchedly unhappy because it has not obtained the right answers to society's problems. Right? One of the reasons I will mention later on, inshallah, is that we are having the wrong aqidah. The wrong aqidah means that when we look at the Quran, we look at the Quran with our own aqidah. Therefore, the deciphering of the Quran, the tadabbur on the result of the Quran is something very strange. And therefore, that is why we don't have any tranquility and calmness in our societies. So that is his own words. So the tadabbur is the core of the Quran that we must get down to. One of the things that I need to discuss with you today is tafsir bi-rai, tafsir based on opinion. Right. Before I go into it, I'd like to know who knows what tafsir bi-rai or tafsir based on opinion means. Who doesn't know? Okay. Right. The point of bringing this up is that we have certain people that get the idea that when we look at the Quran, I get one idea and somebody gets another idea. So isn't this mean that the Quran is not giving us one thing concrete, that it is giving so many things out to different people, and therefore we are not able to understand what Allah wants? Maybe perhaps He wants us to do one thing, the other person says no, He wants us to do the other thing, right? So therefore, so people are thinking that no, maybe in that case it is not for us to even look at the Quran. We'll let somebody else go and decipher it for us the Quran, and we will just take it from them. And this is what has actually happened in our own societies. As you can imagine that we are totally cut off from the Quran. we do not ponder over it, because we might be scared that we are going to interpret it the way which is wrong, right? So this is what I'd like to talk to you about just now, is a tafsir bi-rai. First of all, the first question that I want to ask is whether it is allowed or not. So there's a riwayat here, a very strong riwayat, from by Imam Raza. He is quoting from the Holy Prophet of Islam, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad, who says, Qala Allahu Jalla Jalaluhu. That means he is now quoting from Allah, his hadith Qudsi. Ma amana bi man fassara bi ra'yihi kalami. So he who does tafsir of my words, that means the Quran, which is on opinions, there's no iman in me. No iman in me. That means he's a kafir. This is a direct result of for somebody who does not do tafsir, who does tafsir with his own opinion, then he is a kafir. Doesn't really iman. But this is so you know now that do tafsir based on opinion is wrong, not allowed. So here I'm going to right now pose to you a misconception. I'm going to pose it to you some sort of a logical argument that is presented. Okay, let's see how you handle it. Okay, right. I'm going to make some premises and make a conclusion. Okay, and see where we get to. And see. I'd like to have your interaction with that also. Premise number one. What does tadabbur mean? We have done this before. Tadabbur is pondering over the verse and understanding the meaning based on our own thoughts and feelings. That means we open the ayah, we look at the meaning and look at the bit for understanding the meaning, and then we see how it applies to me personally. So I allow my thoughts and my feelings to come in, and I'm able to apply it to myself. Is it not so? Right? Are you with me? Do you agree? This is what we say. Right. That's premise number one. Premise number two is tafsir bi-rai. Tafsir based on opinion is also understanding of the Quran based on opinions. This is what I said to you before. That you enter the Quran and you do tafsir, but you base it on your own opinions, on your own thoughts and your feelings. Whatever comes to your mind, this is how you take it from that. Correct? This is what I said. Okay, this is therefore tadabbur is the same as tafsir. Are you with me? Ladies and gents, are you with me? Do you agree? Premise number one, you got it. Premise number two, you got it. Premise number one and premise number two look alike. Therefore, the conclusion we make is that tadabbur and tafsir bi-rai is same. According to premise number one and premise number two, I'm saying it. Right? Premise number one is with regards to tadabbur is drawing the conclusion from opinion based on looking at the verse. Premise number two is looking at the tafsir bi-rai, looking again at the result from an opinion formed from the verse of the Quran. Therefore, they have the same meaning. Therefore, what will be the next question? Tafsir bi-rai is haram. Right? We say that is a clear riwayat from Imam Raza. Right? Conclusion. Therefore, tadabbur is haram. Why are we here? What are we doing here? Tadabbur is haram. Right. I'm going to leave the floor open. Let me see what your opinion is. This is the argument. There's a mic here if you want to use. I want to draw some analysis of that. I'm not after an argument, but let us see what is in the minds. Yes. I'd like to stop you because the same point that he's raised. What about the mushrikeen? They are not Muslims. Can they not give the Tadabbur in the Quran? Right.
Which is not specifically for the Muslims, for the mankind. So everyone can do it. But that's what I said, somewhere he will definitely get stuck. So Mushrik, of course, any.
Right. Tafsir or tafsir bi right?
Yeah, so generally, tafsir and tafsir be right. So what is tafsir in itself? And what is tadabbur? Because if you're talking about tafsir, it's the explanation of the verse which Allah has revealed, and the Prophet or the Imam is explaining us what Allah meant by that particular verse. So even a non-believer cannot tell us, or anybody cannot tell us, unless we get a guidance from the Prophet or one faith who explain the verse, why this verse was repeated, for what purpose. That can be conceived. The double is our pondering of the verse. So even a non-Muslim can do that, pondering on the verse and apply on ourselves.
So between the three of you that have, which of the premises is wrong? Because you are saying that the conclusion is wrong, therefore one of the premises are wrong. You understand the argument that we are having right now? That if number one and number two are right, then the conclusion has to be right. If premise number three is right, then conclusion number two is also right. So we're saying that if the conclusion is wrong, then one of the premises is wrong. Which premise is wrong? Number two? Number one? Ladies, what's your vote? Any comments on the ladies' side? Just raise your hands. Premise number one, if you think it's wrong, put up your hand. Premise number one is to do the meaning of the book here is wrong. Put up your hand if you think that is wrong. Put up your hand if you think it's number two. Right. So we have left and right. South. One in red is wrong, which is number two. Right? Tafsir bi right is also understanding of the Quran based on opinions. Right? This is wrong. So let's see what we can understand. Before we do that, the straightforward, you can see this is tafsir. And Tadabbur is not tafsir, it's not tafsir. So there's two different things totally, right from the beginning, you could say. Right? And then it's based on opinion on top of that. So it's a tafsir, but it's based on opinions. Right? But let us see what tafsir means. Because we have looked at tafsir, but now let us go a bit more deeper so that we actually understand what the different things are. Right? Tafsir, so when we're talking about tafsir, when we say tafsir, we're doing tafsir. It means the person who is a mujtahid is doing the tafsir. Not you and me. When we open the enlightening commentary, we say, I'm doing tafsir. That's not called doing tafsir, that's called reading the tafsir. We mentioned this last time, right? So it is not for the readers, it is for the one who is actually doing the tafsir, actually carrying out the extraction of the meaning from the verse, right? So the person who is doing tafsir, first stage is that you want to understand the verses and what Allah is aiming through that verse, right? So there is understanding in that tafsir. Number two is that it is based on rational, that means based on the aql proof, is based also on the narrative proof, on hadith of the Ma'asumin alayhimu salam, on the contextual proof has to be there. So when a mufassir, the person who is doing the tafsir, like a mujtahid, when he comes, right, if he was to understand a particular verse, he can only understand it provided he has brought in these two different aspects also. He has used his rational faculty and also the hadith. He has understanding of the hadith also. Number three is that it involves explaining it to others. That means this is where the laws are concerned. So tafsir. So mujtahid, for example, he comes across a problem in society. He wants to find a law which can overcome that problem in society. So he looks at the Quran, right? He looks at the Quran and he has to apply all the different rules, including the rule of using the aql and the hadith, right? And then he should come out with a law, with a fatwa, right? Such that he can use that law and it is backed by proofs. Right? And then he can present it to society that this is what you are supposed to do, and amongst the ulama they can discuss that this is the reason that I have brought it for you. So this is tafsir. Are we clear on that? The meaning of tafsir so far? Right? Tafsir, right, what is that? Okay. So number one, first stage, yes, there is understanding. Tafsir, where the person wants to get to the meaning of the verse and understand what the verse is saying without reference to rational or narrative proof, because it is only opinion. So the difference between tafsir and tafsir right is that there is no rationality behind it. There is no going back to any hadith, right? You are totally on your own. There's one slide I have prepared, but I don't think we'll get the time, is that in the Sunni world, they have something called ijtihad. The ijtihad between the Sunni and Shia, there's a difference of opinion. Ijtihad in the Sunni world, basically it is getting to the fatwa based on your opinion. So number one, you look at the Quran. If you can't find the law in the Quran, you go to hadith. If you can't find the law in the hadith, then you go to ijma, the consensus of the ulama of the previous times. But if you can't find the law, then you go to ijtihad. That means forming an opinion. Your own opinion, at the end of the day, becomes law for other people to apply. This is in the Sunni world. However, in the Shia world, we have four sources, right? We have the Quran, we have the aql, okay, and we have the hadith, and we have ijma, consensus. Okay, these four things, all of them have to be used. One of the four things has to be used to come out with a law. In order to do that, we must strive for that. That striving is called ijtihad. So there's a difference in the understanding that the Shia Muslims, when they say ijtihad, it means striving. For the Sunnis, ijtihad is actually a way to get to. It is a way which is independent of hadith and Quran, and that is how they. This is what we mean by tafsir right, tafsir based on opinion, that it can be used as part of a law. It can become a cause of a law. You can actually make a fatwa out of it, right? We don't agree with that. Any questions? You understand now? He ends up explaining to others, giving the law. This is wrong. This is what we're saying. The Imam, when he says this is wrong, this means this type of tafsir is wrong. Okay? Because we are giving a fatwa, but there is no base for that. So therefore, let us see what Tadabbur means. In Tadabbur, we can reach new meanings, as we saw when we sat together, right? And there is no explanation to the others. So we allow our opinions to go in, but this is an application for ourselves, right? Because we were to extract a law out of it and to apply that in our lives as becoming a wajib, something, or something is mustahab, for example, that you can say, this is mustahab for sure, I will get sawab for it, right? Then this is not correct. You cannot do that with Tadabbur. Tadabbur doesn't go that far. It doesn't have that capacity to take you that far. You have to go into the next stage, which is tafsir. You must get a proper base for that before you can go in, make it into a law and explain to others, yes, it is like this. Otherwise, in Tadabbur, everybody can come up with his own understanding and application in his own life. We saw here ourselves that some people had another angle. There are different angles that you can look at. From one verse, you can have different angles to look at. So, therefore, in Tafsir Bil-Ra'i, there are new meanings that are obtained, right? The goal of Tafsir Birai, tafsir based on opinion, the goal is different. Tadabbur, the goal is different. The goal in tafsir birai is that you extract a law out of it, a fatwa out of it, and then you go and explain it to the others, wherein tadabbur is not like that. Tadabbur, you cannot say, tell them, this is how I understood it, you also have to understand it like that. There's nothing like that. That is why tadabbur is for everybody, not restricted to. But tafsir is restricted to the people who have mastered the different sciences that are necessary. Are we okay? Yes. Yes. So there are different levels. Even the mushrik, for example, he's at the highest level of coming up with an opinion which is perhaps wrong, right? As I mentioned to you before, that there are levels of tadabbur that are possible, right? So a person who doesn't have the whole understanding of the different verses of the Quran, definitely he can make a mistake. So, but he cannot derive laws from that. I will give an example. I've got an example. Next slide itself is an example. Let me give it to you. Right. Let us discuss this. Let's do tadabbur on this verse. This is Surah Baqarah, ayah number 115. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. فأينما تولوا فثم وجه الله. So whichever way you turn, there is the face of Allah. Right. Let us have your understanding of this verse. What do we understand from this? I want to apply it. Am I going to do tafsir birai, tadabbur? What is it that I'm going to be able to do? What is the result of this particular verse when I come across it? Yes?
The meaning of the word face to me is face is the first thing that you recognize from anything, whether it's a living thing or non-living. The face of it comes first.
What is that tadabbur or is that tafsir? Okay, tadabbur, I need to see a result of that. I need to put into action. What is it that you're going to put into action? You understand what I'm saying? The question? Right? I want to apply. So now that I am seeing Allah in different things, is that what you're saying? In the different faces. So what is the application of that? Understanding is good. But tadabbur goes even further and says, now how do I apply it to myself?
In the face of whether it's diversity or happiness, you take it as you take signs of a life.
So you see the happiness, like you are supposed to feel good. So what are you supposed to do? Are you supposed to feel something or do something? Okay. Okay. So you're going to end up praising, for example, the different things that you see. You praise Allah for that, right? Thanks. Yes. So therefore the result will be what? That you are careful of what you do because Allah is watching. This is tadabbur. Now I want you to apply tafsir birai to this thing. It's haram to do it. Okay, fine. But we are going to just see what is the wrong thing that you can come up with. What is the wrong result that you can come up with? That's one thing. The aqidah changes. You say Allah is actually a person comes with that same aqidah and he comes across this particular verse. He said, look, I told you my aqidah is correct. What else? What else? Because I came across a particular person who actually used this verse in his own method to actually I don't want to tell you this now. Let me see what you can come up with. Tafsir birai. Give me an opinion which can end up in changing your aqidah, as you say, or the law. What law can be applied for that? Tell me more.
You can face anywhere.
Ah.
It is necessary to do the Kaaba.
Yes, absolutely. You understand, ladies? Okay, since Allah is everywhere, you can turn anywhere. Qibla is anywhere. You don't need to face, right? This is called tafsir bil rai, because you have applying a law and becoming something for you to apply in your life, and you can tell others about it. You're going to tell others about it, right? Why are you facing this way when Qibla is there? No, the Quran says so. Look at it. Look. So something which is, we are told by the Mustahidin, for example, that Qibla is only one. There are reasons for that, right? So what is the problem that this particular person is doing? Is that he is referring only to one verse, right? So as you say, you can bring it in direction, right? You need to refer to other verses, right? Are you with me, right? Tadabbur has got different levels, right? So a person cannot take out laws from that. You cannot implement that in life as that it will become like something that is actually doing something which is command of Allah, then he puts into action. Oh, I learned this from the Quran, I have to put it in action. No, then what are the mustahidin for? Look at the verse that is coming. فَوَلِّ وَجْهَكَ شَطْرَ الْمَسْجِدِ الْحَرَامِ. So turn your face towards the holy mosque. This is the other ayat, based on Surah Baqarah, ayat number 144, 149, 150. Two different places. The same verse is coming to show that yes, the tadabbur was correct for that first verse, but you cannot apply that for Qibla, because there is another verse which is showing that you must face the holy Kaaba, holy mosque, when you want to pray. You understand that that scenario that you can easily go into tafsir bil rai if you want to extract the law. Any questions? What is first, tadabbur or tafsir? This is not so important for us, but I thought I'd just mention it just to get it clear in our minds. What is first, tadabbur or tafsir? Those who say tafsir is first, put up your hands. The ladies are up. All those who say tadabbur is first, put up your hands. I'm sure all of you have reasons for that, right? So, can you see at the back, the whole diagram at the back? Can you see it? Very good. So, at the left you have tafsir. You have tafsir for the people, and you have tafsir by the ulama, right? Tafsir for the people, that's you and me. What do we do first? We go and read the tafsir first. Look at the ayah, we go and read the tafsir first, right? And then we do tadabbur on that. Because we don't know what the ayah means, what the shani nuzul is, and what this word particularly means, and all these things, right? So it is helpful for us to look at the tafsir first, and then go and do tadabbur. So those people who said tafsir first, right, they are right. On the other hand, the ulama, right, they want to extract laws for society. Now for them to do that, they need to understand the Quran. So they go and do tadabbur on the Quran first. They can go and do tadabbur on the Quran and get good possibilities out of it for themselves. Right? And then they go into tafsir with the meaning that now they look for proof of what they are thinking. If there is no proof, because this is where taqwa comes in, very important for a mujtahid. You cannot say that, oh, I want to get to that aqidah and that particular fatwa. Now let me find a loophole where I can match that. This is what some people these days insist on, that no, there is something wrong with our method of extraction because this is how it's supposed to be. No, that which is supposed to be is based on our hadith and our ability to understand the Quran and using our rational faculty. So tadabbur is used as a tool to be able to do better tafsir for the ulama. Okay? Any questions? Yes.
Is it a recommendation from someone?
Yes.
Therefore people should do tafsir first and then...
No, it's not a should. Because if you're a mushrik, there's no tafsir. But if people like us, these people like us who are Muslims and we want to do tadabbur, and ayat that we come across, this ayat that I've chosen for today's tadabbur, it's a bit hard, You go into tafsir, your mind opens up and you can do better. Yes.
Maybe
This is reading tafsir, not doing tafsir. Yes.
reading.
Yes.
So I have a different opinion.
Yes.
I would like to start with a clean slate
Yes.
and let the ayah touch me personally.
Yes, correct.
Before I read something else which will then
Absolutely.
make me think in a
No
particular
problem.
direction.
Absolutely. There's no problem about that. But certain verses you can't do that. Absolutely. You just get stuck. I agree that you don't have to look at tafsir every time. You don't even have to look at the meaning. Sometimes you can even look at the verse itself and it just shines through and you're able to perceive it. You're able to feel that verse, right? No need for tafsir. But certain verses you come across, you just don't understand. But even the meanings are not able to. So this is just a recommendation. You want to do something? Tadabbur requires us to enter the scene of action, like we discussed last time, to feel it, so that it brings a change about in our own selves. Can you impose that particular feeling on somebody else? You can guide him on that, right? But you cannot impose it on him. It depends. The tadabbur in its real application is above and beyond tafsir. A person who can read tafsir and he enjoys it and he gets a lot of information from it. But application is a different thing. Okay, on the tafsir level, the application is that his knowledge increases and he becomes a better Muslim in terms of his understanding and application, right? But in terms of changing his life, when he recognizes that there's a fault in him, which he recognizes through the tadabbur, it has a much greater effect. Because now it is a personal level. So imposition cannot be made. You can recommend it. Okay, look, this is one way. Think about it. Do you feel like that also or not? You can say like that. Any other? Just to round up with an example, right? If you say that the Quran is like a constitution, right? Then tafsir is like converting that constitution into regulations that are carried out. So Quran is a constitution. Okay? Now you want to carry it out. What do? You do tafsir. You take out the laws you extract the laws from that so that they can be carried out. What is tadabbur therefore? It is the understanding of the constitution. Tafsir goes a stage further and actually take out the laws, but tadabbur is actually understanding the constitution. Let me give you an example of that. We have the American Constitution and the Second Amendment of the Constitution. It gives citizens the right to bear arms. That is the Second Amendment of the American Constitution. To bear arms, it is allowed. Okay? So this is the Constitution. After Constitution, we say we want to understand the Constitution. So we look at what is the meaning of this. What is the result of allowing guns into society? So here, for example, I've written an example that now, okay, so people will buy guns to be able to defend themselves against thieves, for example, or robbers, or whatever you call them. Or they might even want to misuse it, for example. But this is all the results of that particular constitution. This is a person who actually starts thinking, this is what he comes up with. Right? Then comes the application. This is where the laws are created. From the same constitution, after the understanding of the different implications, you actually work on the laws so that the society is best guided to work on those laws. So for example, that shops are given license only for the purpose of self-defense. For example, like that. This is just from the top of my head. It's just an example I brought it for you. So again, proceed is the extraction of laws from the Quran and Tadabbur is understanding it. So Tadabbur is for all, as I mentioned. Tafsir is with ijtihad only. Right? again, reiteration, tafsir bil rai, tafsir based on opinion means to tafsir without paying attention to any context from the rational frequency or from the narrative context. Right. Before I come to the barriers, that means there are certain things that prevent us from doing tadabbur properly. I think we take a break and let us form the groups to do the tadabbur on the verse that is that I've chosen from the Maarifa competition, verse number 3. Give me something that I can apply it in my life, or you can apply it in your life. Put yourself into that verse.
So basically, what we meant to show how it applies in our lives is basically the kalima that we have. So that I think about Muhammad Rasulullah and these three principles. Without obviously the acceptance that Allah exists, without the acceptance that the Holy Prophet is the Prophet or the Messenger of Allah, without accepting that Imam Ali is the Wasi or the Wali of Allah, and then having them as our role models will be sort of key guidance. And this is what Allah wants for us. Obviously, in the end, we should all do that.
Right, but I want to have something more practical. Give me something that you actually going to do. unfortunately I'm cutting you. I give you the opportunity. Ladies, please be ready. No? I'd like to hear your opinion. Also, last week you Skype to me.
So we have two messages. One is that looking at the very apparent meaning of the verse, applying it to a practical situation in life is, for example, the ibadat of namaz. When the verse says, "Oh, you believe, so you already have iman, you believe in namaz, fasting, whatever it is." It says, "Answer the word of Allah," and He calls you. So, Hayya ala salah, Hayya ala salah, for example, which gives you life. What kind of life? The spiritual life, a life that will re-energize you and give you more power. You know that Allah is revealed between man and his heart. So this means that Allah has the power, or rather Allah has control over someone's guidance. As it says in the Quran, Allah guides whom He wills. So if Allah wants to guide you, He will guide you. If not, He will not. And that to Him we should be guided. So this is the message of the Day of Judgment. So this whole verse is very practical. To look at, for example, the whole situation of namaz. The second message was that it contains the 5 roots of Islam. So Tawheed, believing in Allah, Hidayat, that Allah intervenes between men and hearts, Allah will judge the person accordingly. Imamat al-Nubuwwat is following His messenger, and then Qiyamah, where it says that we should be working together.
Very interesting. Sure. I would like you to think about the application for yourself as a person, you and you. Right? I want the ladies to help me, please, with this tadabbur. What was your tadabbur like? Pass the mic. Pass the mic. वगैरह लगा नहीं बोले. Just we want to know, how would you apply this verse in your own life, right? Because that is what Tadabbur is about. You don't have to tell me what the verse means. I want to know how would you apply it. So there is a sense of more knowledge coming out of this particular verse, right? It is the application of the verse which is so important. It means to recognize our own position with regards to that knowledge. Am I having that iman when the verse is talking to me, saying, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu? Am I that person that the verse is talking to? If the answer is no, then I know where I stand, that I should increase my iman. Right? Number one. Number two, it says, Istajibu. This is a command. Right? Now, we don't take fatwa out of one verse and say, oh, it's wajib now for me to do it. Right? And in fact, it's not like mustahab wajib thing. It's like istajibu means that I must answer the call. That means I am perhaps not answering that call right now, that Allah is telling me, why are you not answering that call? When I look at myself, I see that there are places in my own life, there are situations in my life that I am not abiding by the law. I am not answering to that call. So it works like that. Allah is telling me that come to me, ask me, and come and answer my call. Right? And therefore, He gives me a life. Right? And this life could be anything. Most of you have recognized the need to gain more spirituality, right? So that is fine, right? But I need to feel that. Do I actually want that spirituality? Then I must strive, and that is the jibu, that wanting, that answering the call becomes like a wajib thing for me. Then now I get more encouragement to do that, right? This is some of the point that I also came up with. So, Alhamdulillah, thank you very much. I think we have managed quite a good response in this very short time. At the end of it, I'd like to apologize to all of you for having me. I'm not able to talk very nicely, and probably I'm not using inappropriate words. I'm sorry about it all. Inshallah, may you all forgive me, and I hope that you will take these lessons forward and try to implement in your lives. And lastly, this brings us to the end of these sessions on Tadabbur. There could have been much more, but how much more can go? It is the practicalization which is so important. So as a recommendation, if the people, now that you have the feedback forms in front of you, then you can suggest how we can actually make this thing go on. So one suggestion would be that you can have weekly Tadabbur class. That means now they're just looking at verses of the Quran and sit together in a group and discuss how these verses can actually be applied to ourselves. This is just one of these suggestions. Sallallahu alaihi wa sallam.